My parents played favorites and funded my brother's kids while calling mine ungrateful. Years later, when my kids became more successful, they wanted to reconnect but my kids cut them off. My parents gave my brother $80K for his kids' college funds while mine got nothing, and now that my children are doctors and his are jobless, they want back in our lives but my kids told them to go to hell. I need to know if I'm wrong for not intervening. So here's the thing. My brother was always the golden child. Always. He married young to this woman my parents loved. Had 3 kids by 25. My parents treated those kids like royalty. Meanwhile, I waited until I was stable. Got my career going. Married someone my parents thought wasn't good enough because he came from a working-class family. When my twins were born, my mom literally said, "Well, at least you only had 2." She meant it as a compliment. Like I was being responsible. But it stung. The real mess started when college came around. My brother's oldest was 18. My parents sat us all down for this family dinner. My dad announced they were giving my brother $80K total for his 3 kids' education. He said, "We want to make sure they have the best start in life." I was shocked. I asked, "What about my kids?" They were only 10 at the time, but still. My mom actually laughed. She said, "Your husband makes good money now. You two can handle it. Your brother needs help. My husband makes good money because he worked his ass off." Meanwhile, my brother bounced between jobs and his wife didn't work. But sure. We were the ones who didn't need help. I tried to argue. My dad shut me down. He said, "This is our money and our decision. Don't be ungrateful." Ungrateful. That word haunted me for years. But here's where it gets worse. 2 years later, I found out my brother had been having an affair. His wife found out. Nasty divorce. My parents blamed her. Said she drove him to it by being too demanding. They paid for his lawyer. Gave him another $30K to get back on his feet. His kids took it hard. Started failing school. Dropping out. My parents kept throwing money at the problem. Meanwhile, my twins were busting their asses. Straight as. Scholarships. They both got into medical school. We took loans. Worked extra jobs. My kids worked through college. My parents never offered a dime. Never even acknowledged their achievements. My daughter once asked my mom why she never came to her graduation. My mom said, "We were helping your cousin move that weekend. Family emergency." It wasn't an emergency. My brother's kid was moving into his 4th apartment in 2 years. Fast forward to now. My twins are both doctors. 32 years old. Successful. Happy. Own homes. My brother's kids are all struggling. One's been in and out of rehab. One lives in my parents' basement. The 3rd can't keep a job. My parents burned through their retirement money supporting them. Last month my mom called me crying. Said they were struggling. Asked if my kids could help them out. Maybe let them move into one of their investment properties for cheap. I was floored. I said, "You never helped my kids. You called me ungrateful for even asking." She started sobbing. Said, "We made mistakes. But we're family. Your kids are doing so well. They should want to help their grandparents." I told my kids about it. Wanted their input. My son said, "The same grandparents who missed every one of my achievements? Who told mom we weren't worth investing in? Those grandparents?" My daughter was blunt. She said they made their choice. They can live with it. I don't owe them anything. They both refused. Told me they wanted nothing to do with my parents. My parents found out. Called me screaming. My dad said I poisoned my kids against them. That I raised them to be selfish. My mom said, "We gave your brother money because his kids needed it more. Yours were always going to be fine." That's when it clicked. They never saw my kids as needing support because they assumed we'd succeed anyway. My brother's kids were the charity cases. The ones who needed saving. And my parents kept saving them right into failure. My brother called too. Had the nerve to say my kids should help because family takes care of family. This from the guy who cheated on his wife and leached off our parents for decades. I hung up on him. Now my parents are bitter. They tell relatives I turned my kids against them. That we're cruel for abandoning them in their old age. Some family members agree. Say my kids are being heartless. But my kids don't care. My daughter told me they abandoned us first. When we were children. When we actually needed grandparents. Now they want us because we're useful. My son won't even take their calls. Part of me feels guilty. They're my parents. They're old. They're struggling. But another part of me remembers every dismissal. Every time they chose my brother. Every time they called us ungrateful for wanting basic equality. My husband says, "Let the kids decide. They're adults. It's their choice." Should I be pushing my kids to help my parents even though my parents never helped them? My parents showed up at my daughter's hospital. Unannounced. They waited in the lobby until her shift ended. She called me from her car absolutely furious. Said my mom tried to hug her and my dad handed her a folder with their bills inside. My daughter told them to leave. My mom started crying in the middle of the parking lot. Made a scene. Other staff members saw. My daughter was mortified. She told them if they ever showed up at her workplace again she'd call security. My dad actually said, "This is what we raised you to do? Treat your grandparents like criminals?" She got in her car and drove away. My son got a worse visit. My brother showed up at his practice. Brought his oldest kid with him. The one in and out of rehab. My brother tried the whole "look at your cousin, he's struggling, you could help him get back on his feet" routine. My son said, "I'm working. You need to leave." My brother wouldn't leave. Started arguing in the waiting room. Said my son owed the family. That our parents sacrificed everything for us. My nephew just stood there looking miserable. My son had to have his receptionist threaten to call the police. That's when my brother said, "You think you're better than us because you have a degree? Our parents paid for your privilege." My son lost it. Told him our parents never gave us a cent. That he and his sister worked their way through everything while my brother's kids got handed everything and squandered it. My brother actually lunged at him. His own son had to hold him back. The waiting room was full of patients. My son's reputation could have been ruined. Now my parents are telling everyone my kids are the problem. That we're vindictive. My aunt called me saying I should be ashamed. That my kids have money and our parents are desperate. She said, "What kind of mother raises children with no compassion?" I snapped. Told her to ask my parents what kind of grandparents play favorites for 30 years then demand payback. She hung up on me. My husband found out my parents have been calling his mother. Trying to get her to convince our kids to help. His mom told them off. Said they made their bed. But it shows how desperate they're getting. The worst part came 3 days ago. My mom called me sobbing. Said they might lose their house. That my brother can't help because he's barely making rent. She begged me to talk to my kids. Said they're doctors, they make so much money, they won't even miss it. I asked her if she remembered telling me my kids didn't need help because they'd be fine anyway. She went quiet. Then she said, "I didn't think you'd hold that against us forever. We're your parents." I told her actions have consequences. That my kids watched their cousins get everything while they got nothing. Not even praise. Not even presents. And now she wants their money. She started screaming. Called me bitter. Said I was punishing them for loving my brother's kids. That I was jealous my whole life. Maybe I was jealous. Maybe I still am. But that doesn't change what they did. My brother left me a voicemail yesterday. He was drunk. Rambling about how I always had to be better. How I married up and got lucky. How my kids only succeeded despite him. He said our parents are suffering because of my pride. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. He said, "Your kids think they're safe in their nice houses and fancy jobs, but family doesn't forget." I don't know if it was just drunk talk or an actual threat. My husband wants to document everything. Keep records of them showing up at workplaces. Save the voicemails. He's worried this is going to get worse before it gets better. My kids are done. My daughter blocked my parents' numbers. My son told me he doesn't consider them family anymore. He said they're strangers who happen to share DNA. Part of me wonders if I should have just stayed quiet all those years. Let my kids form their own relationships with my parents without my baggage. But then I remember my mom's face when she said my kids weren't worth investing in. The contempt. The certainty that my brother's kids were more deserving. My parents created this. They chose my brother over and over and over. They watched my kids achieve everything alone and never once said they were proud. Now they're shocked that those same kids won't save them. I'm starting to realize this isn't about the money. It's about my parents finally understanding that their choices had real consequences. And they can't accept it. Is there any coming back from this, or should I just accept my family is permanently broken? My brother drained my parents' bank account and disappeared. I found out 3 days ago when my dad called from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. When I did, he was barely coherent. Kept saying he took everything over and over. Took me 10 minutes to piece it together. My brother had power of attorney. My parents gave it to him 2 years ago when my dad had a health scare. They never changed it back. He withdrew everything. Their savings. The money from refinancing their house. About 40 grand total. Then he stopped answering their calls. My dad was crying. Actually crying. He said, "We need help. Please. We have nothing." I asked where the money went. He said my brother told them it was for an investment. Something that would triple their money. They signed the paperwork without reading it. I hung up. Didn't say anything. Just hung up. My husband asked what happened. When I told him, he just stared at me. Then he said they chose him every single time. And this is where it led. I know I should feel bad. Part of me does. But mostly I feel numb. My mom called next. Different number. She wasn't crying. She was angry. Said this wouldn't have happened if my kids had helped them. That they pushed my brother to desperation. I said my brother stole from you. That's not my kid's fault, she said if they'd helped us we wouldn't have needed him to manage our money. The logic was insane. But she believed it. She genuinely believed my kids refusing to give them money somehow caused my brother to rob them. I told her not to call again. She said fine. But when we're homeless you'll have to live with that. I blocked the number. My kids found out through my aunt. She called my daughter at work again. Told her what my brother did. Asked if she'd reconsider helping now. My daughter said no. My aunt called her a monster. My son got a similar call. He told them they enabled a thief for 40 years. This is the natural conclusion. Then my brother's ex-wife reached out to me. We haven't spoken in 8 years. She said he did the same thing to me during the divorce. Drained our accounts. Your parents paid him back then too. I didn't know that. My parents never told me they covered his theft from his own wife. She said they created this. They taught him there were never consequences. Now they're surprised he turned on them. She was right. Yesterday my parents showed up at my house. I saw them through the window. Didn't answer the door. They sat on my porch for 2 hours. Left another note. This one was my dad's handwriting. Shaky. Said they were sorry for everything. That they made mistakes. That they needed family now more than ever. No mention of what those mistakes actually were. No real accountability. Just vague sorry and immediate ask for help. My husband wanted to call the police. I said no. They left eventually. But my son did call the police. Filed a report about the harassment at his workplace and home. The officer said they couldn't do much yet but it was on record. My daughter did the same. My parents found out. My dad left a voicemail calling us cruel. Said we're your parents and you're treating us like criminals. I saved it. Just in case. The extended family is split now. Half think we should help. Half think my parents made their bed. My aunt is leading the charge against us. She's been posting on social media. Vague things about family betrayal and ungrateful children. My daughter's friends from high school started messaging her. People she hasn't talked to in over a decade. Asking if the posts were about her. If she really abandoned her grandparents. She deleted all her social media. My son changed his number entirely. I found out today that my parents are trying to get my brother arrested. They filed a police report for the theft. But because he had power of attorney it's complicated. The police said it's likely a civil matter. My dad called me again. Different number. Asked if I knew a good lawyer. If I could pay for one. I said no. He said you're going to let him get away with this. I said you let him get away with everything his whole life. I'm just following your example. He hung up on me. My mom sent me an email. A long one. About how she sacrificed everything for us. How she went without so we could have things. How my dad worked 2 jobs when we were kids. All true. But none of it explained why my brother's kids got $80,000 and mine got nothing. None of it explained missing every achievement my kids had. None of it explained enabling my brother's affair and bankruptcy and now theft. I didn't respond. My husband's parents offered to help my parents. They barely know them. They said it was the Christian thing to do. My husband told them absolutely not. That they weren't getting involved. His mom said but they're family. My husband said they treated my kids like they didn't exist for 32 years. I don't care what happens to them. His parents backed off. Tonight my daughter called me. She'd been talking to a therapist. Working through everything. She said I keep waiting to feel guilty. But I don't. Is that wrong? I told her no. That she didn't owe them guilt. She said they had so many chances to be my grandparents. They chose not to be. Now they want me to be their retirement plan. My son feels the same. He told me if they just loved us equally I would help them now. But they didn't. So I won't. I don't know what my parents are going to do. I don't know if they'll find my brother or if they'll end up losing their house. I don't know if more family will turn on us or if this will blow over. What I do know is my kids are done. Completely done. And I'm not going to push them anymore. My brother is still gone. No one's heard from him in 5 days. Part of me wonders if this was his plan all along. Wait until they were desperate enough to give him control. Then take everything. Would my parents have done the same to me if I'd needed money? Or was my brother special even in his betrayal? My brother's wife, the one he cheated on, contacted my kids directly and told them everything my parents covered up over the years. I didn't know she was going to do this. Nobody did. She sent both my kids emails with bank statements, court documents, everything. Turns out my brother didn't just steal from my parents once. He'd been doing it for years. My daughter called me at 6 a.m. Her voice was completely flat. She said, "Did you know Grandma and Grandpa paid off his gambling debts 4 times? I didn't. She said, "Did you know they took out a second mortgage to cover the money he stole from his employer?" I didn't know that either. My son sent me the files. Pages and pages of transfers. Loans. Bailouts. Going back 15 years. Tens of thousands of dollars I never knew about. Money my parents claimed they didn't have when my kids needed help with anything. The year my daughter asked for $500 for a school trip and my mom said they couldn't afford it. They'd just given my brother $12,000 for his legal fees after he got a DUI. The time my son needed help with textbooks and my parents said times were tight. They'd covered $8,000 in my brother's credit card debt that same month. Every single time my kids asked for anything, no matter how small, my parents said no. And every single time, they were actively funding my brother's disasters. My kids aren't just angry now. They're disgusted. My daughter said they looked us in the eye and lied. Over and over. The ex-wife also told them about the affair. The real version. Not the one my parents told everyone. My brother didn't just cheat once. He had 3 different affairs during his marriage. My parents knew about all of them. They paid for marriage counseling. They paid for hotels when he needed somewhere to stay. They gave his wife money to keep the family together and then paid for his divorce lawyer when she finally left. My son said they funded his cheating, then blamed her for the divorce. The ex-wife's email ended with, "Your grandparents chose to destroy their own lives to protect him. Don't let them destroy yours too." My kids forwarded everything to me. I spent 4 hours reading it. Every document felt like a betrayal I didn't know I should have been watching for. My husband looked at the files and said they had money for him. They always had money for him. They just decided your kids weren't worth it. That's the part that's breaking me. It wasn't about having money or not having money. It was about who they decided deserved it. Yesterday my parents found out the documents leaked. My aunt called me screaming. Said the ex-wife had no right. That it was private family business. I said she had every right. They stole from her too. My aunt said, "You need to control your kids. They're telling everyone." My kids weren't telling everyone. But some cousins saw the documents. Now the extended family knows my parents weren't just playing favorites. They were enabling theft and affairs and fraud. Half the family stopped talking to my parents. The other half is angrier at me for not shutting this down. My dad called me yesterday. He was drunk. Started yelling about how I ruined them. How I turned everyone against them. How the documents were taken out of context. I said, "What context makes covering up theft and cheating okay?" He said he's my son. What was I supposed to do? I said, "Treat your other grandchildren like they mattered." He hung up. My mom left a voicemail. She wasn't yelling. She was begging. Said the family was falling apart. That people were taking sides. That I needed to make my kids stop. Stop what? Knowing the truth? My brother's oldest, the one in rehab, checked himself out and showed up at my son's office. Started demanding to know why we were destroying the family. Security removed him. My son filed for a formal restraining order. Not just against my parents now. Against my brother's kids too. My daughter did the same. The court date is in 2 weeks. My parents sent a letter through their lawyer. Threatening to sue for grandparent rights. Their lawyer told them they don't have a case but they're pushing anyway. My kids' lawyers responded. With everything. The harassment. The ambush at the hospital. The documented years of neglect and favoritism. My parents dropped it after that. But now they're telling everyone my kids threatened them legally. That we're using money and lawyers to bully them. My aunt posted on social media again. This time with names. Called my kids entitled. Said they were punishing their grandparents for being human and making mistakes. The comments were brutal. Half supporting her. Half calling out my parents. Someone found the court documents online and posted them. Now everyone knows. The gambling. The affairs. The theft. Everything. My parents' church found out. The pastor called me. Asked if there was anything that could be done to reconcile the family. I said my parents need to acknowledge what they did. Actually acknowledge it, he said he tried. That my parents insist they loved all their grandchildren equally. That the money was just circumstantial. Circumstantially they gave my brother hundreds of thousands over the years and my kids nothing. But sure. Equal. My brother finally resurfaced. Not to return the money. To hire a lawyer. He's claiming the power of attorney was legitimate and he was managing their investments. That they knew what he was doing. My dad says that's a lie. But he signed the papers. So it's messy. The police are involved now but it's civil court stuff. Could take months or years. My parents can't afford a lawyer. They asked me to pay for one. I said no. My dad said, "So you're just going to let him win?" I said, "You let him win his entire life. I'm just not stopping it anymore." My mom showed up at my daughter's apartment building last night. She got past the door somehow. Sat in the hallway outside her door. When my daughter came home from her shift at midnight, my mom was there. My daughter called the police. They escorted my mom out. Gave her a warning. My daughter called me crying. Not sad crying. Scared crying. She said I don't feel safe. She's escalating. My son changed apartments. Didn't tell anyone the new address except me and my husband. My daughter is considering doing the same. I never thought it would get this bad. I thought my parents would eventually just accept it and move on. But they're not accepting anything. They're getting more desperate. More aggressive. My husband thinks something worse is coming. That desperate people do desperate things. I don't know what else they could do. But I'm starting to think he's right.